Welcome everybody, this is Tiggy Maximus with Tiggy Maximus Talks on YouTube, episode 166. Thank you guys for listening to all these episodes, watching the podcast. Thank you for following and subscribing, also donating towards the podcast, which, by the way, you guys can click on the link in my Spotify episodes, which you can also click through our YouTube episode, where it takes you to the Spotify episode, and each episode has a link where you can make a donation towards the podcast. Anything is appreciated, guys. I want to talk about 3 comedy shows. Great shows I've been to. We have one March 27th at the Polyline Company. Great show by Cash Comedy. Headliner was Xander Beltran. First time seeing the guy. We also have a show called The Bucket List. It was produced by the one and only Alan Henderson. Then there was a March 29th show at Comedy Heights, produced by Al Gabby, with a headliner Laura Hayden. We got some March Madness to talk about. Final Four is upon us. We also have Padres just started their season. Lakers are about to finish up their season and trying to get to higher positioning in the NBA playoff standings. And LA Kings got stuff going on, and the United Football League just started. So, let's get started with Polyline. Cash Comedy always produces some great shows. He started off with his hosting duties. I didn't get to hear too much of his comedy set throughout the whole night. He did do some crowd work. I kind of hope to hear some new jokes coming from Cash Comedy. I think I've heard pretty much all of his jokes so far. So I'm kind of wishing sometime soon might hear some new stuff. I did remember him calling out all the single people in the patio. I think he already found me in the back, sitting by myself at the back table, which used to be where the bar was, but they moved the bar and that back table. They switched it, so where the table was actually where the bar was, and where the table was before is now where the that's where the bar is now, actually. I guess it does kind of give more of a free flow to the patio and the back side of the patio. So, in a way, the bar is actually very tucked away in the back there, but it's out of the way. But you can still access it very easily. And that other table is more close to the other tables, actually. So it actually works out pretty well. I actually got to try out their vegan burger. Pretty tasty, actually. If you're not in the mood for like meat, and you kind of want something like, I guess, more vegan-like of a burger, that was actually a pretty good vegan burger. I would say it was an 8.7 out of 10. So we also have Ryan Archuleta. He went up after Cash Comedy. Guy did alright. His best joke that I remember hearing about was his using the Border Patrol as his Uber to get back home. So, given how expensive it is to do Uber and Lyft, he would call on himself, Border Patrol will come get him, and then we'll drop him off at his place across the border. That's kind of an interesting way of doing it, but it got a lot of people laughing though. So you did all right. I would say it was 7.9 out of 10. Cash 7.5 out of 10. Next person that went up, I believe it was Melissa Wiseman, LA Comic. She did talk about how it was just so inconvenient to try to ask somebody to help her with the buttons for the bodysuit, and nobody told her that that piece of the bodysuit was hanging out, so it looks like she has a tail. And then she kind of goes into the whole fact about if it was like to zip up a dress or something, a female would be more than willing to help out, but when it's a button on the bottom strap of a bodysuit, and you have to go underneath the crotch area, yeah, no one's really gonna volunteer for that unless maybe you're an over eager guy or something, or over eager female to help out. So remember that. I think she did talk about her Korean guy story, and how she learned the metric system. That was a good one. I would say even with a slightly chill crowd, she did pretty well. The crowd liked her a lot. A lot of great jokes she did. I would say she was an 8.4 out of 10. Next we have Austin Train. Okay, I talked about trains. Talked about his grandpa and his dad. He did talk about autism and then where he is on the spectrum. If he's good at either trains or Legos, or coming up with an invention of some sort. So he got the crowd laughing quite a bit. Pretty much comparing himself where he is on the spectrum and how well he did in life. And then he talked about his grandfather talking about the future. For old people, they shouldn't get worried about the future. You should be living right now because you don't have that much time left on Earth. So overall, he did pretty well. I would say he was an 8.45. Go Austin. Then we got our headliner, Xander Beltran. Guy did pretty well. For the first time, this is the first time I've seen him. He did talk about dating. He talked about being from Oakland. And then afterwards, he was a great guy to talk to. He does travel quite a bit for shows. And he just so happened he got a gig in San Diego while he was down here. So he got a spot at the Comedy Store, Thursday night Comedy Store show. So kudos to him. I would say Xander did pretty well with the crowd. It did take him a little time to get going, but about halfway through he started to get more laughs. It was kind of like that for everybody else too on the lineup too. So, but overall 8.5 for Xander Beltran. Overall, great, decent show. Can't wait to go back again. It was always nice to see Jesse on the sound and seeing Cash hosting. So it was always a great show, great venue, very decent crowd. And if I come back, I actually would try that vegan burger again. Actually, that's actually pretty tasty. Next up, I'm going to be talking about the comedy show Bucket List at the Mic Drop Comedy Show, produced by Alan Henderson. So the bucket list at the mic drop was an interesting concept. So all the audience members got to write something on an index card, and they put it into a bowl, and it was collected by the comics, and then they were going to put the bucket list out in the front by the stage in the gold room, and then we'll pick those cards and we'll start just relating to the topic that was written on the card. Could be anything. And the comics are pretty much relate to the question as best they could, or just make something funny out of the topic. So it's kind of a cool concept by Alan Henderson. Unfortunately, I didn't get to write my topic, and it was already too late. But it's okay. I don't mind sitting in the back. I just happened to be sitting with Luis Alvarado, cool guy, my twin brother. Yeah, it was pretty interesting though. We got not only Alan Henderson on the show, but we also have Cedro was on the show. Mikey Perry was on the show. Blaze Tricoli was on it. Lucy Love. Mike Vin. So those are cool guys on the show, pairing up with the next person. They did have some interesting things to say about each of the topics. Alan Henderson, he started off the show, did his usual crowd work, get to know couples in the crowd. That Rune really liked a lot of the stuff that he had to say. A lot of laughter throughout his set, and a lot of laughter for a lot of the stuff that he was going to say based off of each index card that was drawn from the bucket. And I remembered he got to pair up with Mike Vin and Lucy Love, and it was a really fun time, especially getting to hear just crazy stuff. People were curious about why people wrote certain topics. So overall, yeah, I would say Alan Anderson with his crowd work, just being super funny. I would say it was an 8.8 out of 10. Really did well. I remember there was, yeah, I think Lucy Love was doing her thing, talked about how she had a daughter who said that she was born. She had to mention that. Well, how am I born? I did, I think she said she did anal without lube. That's always a big kick, considering, you know, that was an attention grabber. Lucy did pretty well with the crowd. She was really super funny about, I guess, teenagers having kids, but it kind of made it seem like being 18, 19, having a kid makes you a very old. So I don't know, is that supposed to be like old for a Mexican mom, Latina mom, to have a kid that early? So anywho, overall great set. She always does pretty well. I don't think I've ever really seen her bomb anywhere. I would say she was an 8.7 out of 10. Cedro. We got to see Cedro. Talked about dating. Funny guy. He has some interesting things to say about index cards. The topics on index cards. I guess he did 8.5 out of 10, really. I mean, the crowd liked him, and this is my second time seeing him on stage.
Um, then we got Blaze Tripoli. That was pretty funny. Um, did talk about, yeah, he talked about dating actually. Um, uh, Someone mentioned that he looked like Cactus Jack, and they actually wrote it on the index card. Um, that was pretty interesting. And then when I look at Blaze again, it's actually true. He does remind me of Cactus Jack, Mick Foley of WWE, WCW. So that was kind of interesting though. Um, Blaze, I thought he was a 8.2 out of 10 actually. Got some good laughs. Um, I mean, he did all right. Um, then there was Mikey Perry. Did basically all crowd work. And then the questions, um, you got some peculiar questions in the bucket list. So you had to just work with that. Honestly, I thought he was pretty well. 8.4 out of 10. Um, let's see. Oh, Mike Ben. Mike Ben was the last one to go up. He did get to work with Blaze, and he did get to work with Alan Henderson. And Mike Ben did talk about, things his wife gets to do, gets what she wants because all she has to do is kind of shimmy one of her body parts that's like very appealing to guys. But for Mike Ben and guys in general, there's not a body part where you can do the same thing and get the same treatment. He's always met with disgust. So, um, overall, I think, um, let's see, Mike Ben, I would say he was a 8.5 out of 10. Mikey Perry, I would say he was a 8.4 out of 10. Um, hmm. And then I guess there was somewhat an after party, and it was supposed to be. No, never mind. There's no after party. Um, but yeah, some of the comics they kind of hang around. Some had to leave, but I did get to talk to Cedro. I did get to talk to Lucy. Um, Always great people. Got to talk to Alan. Um, but overall, great show overall. Anywho, um, so yeah, Mike Ben 8.5. Mikey Perry, I think he was an 8.45. Um, and Cedro 8.5. And then Lucy 8.7. Alan 8.8. So overall, great show. Next time I go to this type of show, I'm gonna write something on an index card and see which comic will respond when they pick it up. And I guess that will make my day actually. I did have the pleasure of going to Comedy Heights on a Friday night. Show produced by Al Gabby. Great guy, great comic. Um, I just squirted my face with lemon, if you can tell. Not my best moment. My bad luck continues. I actually did spill my caramel macchiato on my lap last night. Good thing it was not hot. It was cold. Anywho, Al Gabby produced a great show right next to a coffee shop. Very awesome caramel delish. The $5 to get into the comedy show can be used towards the cafe. So, what do you know? Comedy show and coffee for $5. Great deal. Al Gabby went up, had a lot of funny things to say. Crowd liked him. He even addressed the crowd. And I always like how he likes to put a twist on things. So Al is a great guy, super funny, one of the funniest in San Diego. I would say Al was like a 8.7 out of 10 for his comedy. He did tell everybody that the whole place is getting renovated, so a lot of great things to come. And it's so great that it's right next to the Adams Avenue Theater. So great place to have comedy on Adams Avenue. What's there? Then I believe the next person that went up was Melissa Wiseman. She had some funny stuff to talk about. She talked about breast milk, and it's some of the best milk she has ever had with her coffee that she had to suck from the titty. That was pretty funny. It got a lot of people laughing because, you know, when you think of milk and then, you know, it's kind of a misdirection. You know, given how great it is, you just kind of take it directly from the tap. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of changes your mindset about the joke now, and you put your mind in that situation now, and all of a sudden, that's what's imprinted in my mind. So, she's super funny. She's gonna do pretty well, guys. I would say Melissa was about an 8.7 out of 10. This is some of her best work, and she just talked about the Korean guy and the metric system, and then a lot of good stuff. Can't wait to see more of her stuff down the road. I believe we also had what's his name? Oh, Alfonso Ochoa. He started off his set by explaining that he is Latino, Mexican, and I just then remembered I actually saw this guy before, like either a couple months ago or I saw him over a year ago. It just triggered something in my mind. That's how he started off the set. And then he started talking about some other stuff too. You know, dating, ethnicity. So a lot of great stuff. He kept getting more funny as his set went on. He even talked about being arrested and pulled over. How he was at a green light and he didn't go a few times. And how he was so high that he didn't realize that he was looking at the light all the way down the street, not the one in front of him. A lot of fun stuff. I'm glad because he was super funny. It was just non-stop with the funniness. So 9.1 out of 10. Congrats, Alfonso. And then you got your headliner, Laura Hayden. which is pretty interesting. She talked about, um, I think she talked about, she guess she used to be a teacher, which is funny because somebody else was on the show was also a teacher too, Kat Moore. Um, so, oh, Kat Moore. So I'll talk about them both actually. So Kat Moore talked about from being from out of town, and then she talked about how the class that she teaches was like special ed, I think she said, and then talked about how the kids kind of rhymed her name with other things, and so she went goes by Miss Moore, uh, Miss Door, and then I guess it got to Miss Whore. So yeah, that was probably one of the funniest things, and probably the funniest things I've heard to end the set actually. Kat Moore, I would say she was probably at 8.5 out of 10. Really funny with her stuff. Really cool to talk to. And then Laura Hayden talked about being a doctor, talked about dating, talked about how do you know if you're a little bitch. If you wear low cut shirts and not expect attention, you're a little bitch. Um, if you buy, if you go to, I guess, like a concert and the person bought the tickets, really expensive tickets, and not expect any kind of anything in return, you're a little bitch. So she talked about also singing, and I want to say she said something about pole dancing. Uh, so a lot of great stuff. Um, it did take a little bit of time to get going, but she got the crowd going with her um, after the beginning, and I would say that she was an 8.7 out of 10. It was great. It's too bad I didn't get to talk to her after the show though. It would have been great to talk to her after the show, but I'll probably be seeing some of these comics down the road. Plus the fact that I tag everybody, so I'm kind of in everybody's radar. So, yeah. Overall, great show. Can't wait to go back again, and can't wait to try some more new coffees at that Lestat's Coffee Cafe, right next door. Before I forget, Final Four is upon us now. There's only 4 teams left in the basketball tournament, the NCAA basketball tournament. You got your defending champions, UConn, Connecticut. They blew past all of their teams, their opponents. They got past SDSU, which was very heartbreaking because I kind of wanted to see a more closer competitive matchup, but UConn pulled away in the second half. Even though SDSU did get the lead twice in the first half and made it competitive, but UConn just kept pulling away and then put an exclamation point on the second half, and they won 82-52. UConn also beat Illinois very easily to get to the Final Four. Alabama, they did beat North Carolina, who was the number 1 seed. I think they're the first number 1 to fall. So Alabama did pretty well taking down North Carolina. And then Alabama did a great job beating Clemson. So Alabama, the number 4 seed, is going to be are they 4? Yeah, Alabama's the number 4 seed. Going to be taking on number 1 UConn in one side of the bracket. On the other side of the bracket, we've got NC State, who is on this unbelievable Cinderella run. Not only did they have to win 5 straight games in 5 nights in the ACC tournament to get in, because they had to earn their way to get in, If they had lost one game in that tournament, conference tournament, they would not have been selected for the NCAA tournament. So not only did they win 5 days and 5 victories in 5 days, they went past the number 6 seed, took care of them, then beat the number 3 seed. No, they beat the number 14 seed, Oakland. That game went to overtime, actually. So Oakland made it things competitive. Then NC State, NC State took down, I believe, Texas. And then NC State eventually played Duke in the Elite Eight. I wanted Duke to get very good at this and then get to the Final Four because it seems like it was a set path. Not only did Duke beat number 1 Houston to make it to the Elite Eight, but to have an 11 seed to get into the Final Four, it was an easier path, let's just say. But NC State just, they were tough. And they made it tough on Duke again because not only did NC State beat Duke in the second night of the ACC tournament, the NC State got Duke again, and they beat them again, 76-64, and I was so disappointed. So both my Duke and SDSU were out of the tournament. NC State then earns their spot in the Final Four as an 11 seed. And NC State is going to play number 1 Purdue. Purdue just beat Tennessee. Very tough matchup in a 1 versus 2 in that side of the bracket. Purdue, remember, they actually got upset by the number 16 seed, Fairleigh Dickinson, last season. A FDU team that not only did not win their own conference tournament, they won it because by default, because the team that did win it was on probation and was not eligible for the NCAA tournament. So even though that team did beat FDU to win the conference tournament, but they can't get in, so by default, the runner-up, FDU, gets to go in. And because of that, FDU has to play in the round of 68 to get to the round of 64. So they have to play another 16 seed. And not only that, they beat that team, and they got to face Purdue in the 2023 tournament and beat Purdue very soundly, become the second team ever as a 16 seed to beat the number 1 seed. So because of that, of course, there's a big chip on the shoulder of Purdue. And what do you know? Purdue just ransacked through the tournament, faced Tennessee, beat Tennessee, and, well, Purdue is in the Final Four. Granted, they get to play number 11 seed NC State. On paper, it looks like an easy win for Purdue, but seeing as how NC State did beat North Carolina, Duke twice, Texas, Oakland, NC State is not an easy out. Honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how NC State plays Purdue, because I'm actually hoping NC State not only beats Purdue, but also beats UConn. And I win my March Madness bracket group. I already won food in the bracket group, and I'm waiting for some money. So hopefully NC State can pull me through here. If I had to choose, I would say UConn wins their match with Alabama, and I think NC State might pull off another upset against Purdue, and then it's going to set up this whole David versus Goliath matchup. But even though I want NC State to beat UConn, but I have a feeling that UConn is going to win again and repeat as champions back to back. So the other thing is, I think that Purdue could face UConn, and Purdue might be the best opponent for UConn, but I do feel that UConn, Connecticut is going to end up winning the whole thing again. So kudos to UConn. I'm hoping UConn does slip up, but I'm hoping for NC State. The spirit of Jimmy Valvano, is coursing through the veins of every single NC State fan and player. Um, but I got a feeling that UConn is probably going to win, and UConn will probably beat Purdue. But NC State, I think they have a shot. But overall, I think Connecticut, UConn will probably take home the crown, cut down the nets, and see what happens in 2025. It's going to make a lot of teams recruit better with the transfer portal and the new recruits coming from, like, um, you know, uh, guys graduating from high school, building a team for the future, players that may or may not consider doing the one and done. So that's kind of an interesting thing to look after. But UConn has set a new bar, a new standard. So all these other college basketball teams got to figure out a way to measure up to them. So we'll see what happens. Lakers are doing pretty well. They're trying to make a surge towards the playoffs. They are tied in wins with the teams in 6th, 7th, 8th place. It's just that the Lakers did lose 1 or 2 more games than those teams with the same win total. So I've noticed in the schedule, the Kings have a hard schedule coming up, so they could easily match in the loss column with the Lakers. The Lakers have a very tough schedule too, but they do have some easy games coming forward. There's only 5 games left. So I could see the Lakers kind of tying or overtaking some of those teams, the Suns, the Kings, and possibly the Pelicans, and grab the number 6 seed. It's within reach. They just can't lose any more games, obviously. So yeah, tight race from 6 to 8. Or, yeah. Because Mavericks, I think they're at 5. Pelicans are number 6. Suns are probably number 7, and the Kings are 8, which makes the Lakers number 9, with the Warriors 10. So we'll see what happens. Go Lakers. Lakers do have the Wolves coming up. Lakers also have, I think they're playing the Grizzlies one more time. They're also playing the Warriors, I think, one more time. And then the Lakers and Pelicans, I think, are going to play each other at the end of the year, which might be a playoff spot on the line. So, who knows? LA Kings are doing pretty all right. They were on a 3-game losing streak, but they actually did beat the Kraken to get back on track. And it kind of looks like, so because the LA Kings are in 4th in the Pacific Division, it becomes a wild card spot. So what may happen if the LA Kings don't get the top 3 spot in the Pacific Division? They are lined up to face the division leader for the Central, which is the Dallas Stars, who I think they have a better points record than the Vancouver Canucks, who is actually the leader of the Pacific Division that the Kings are in. So normally you would think the Kings would be facing their own divisional opponent. It would have made sense to do Kings versus Canucks because it was like a divisional playoff. But because of the little twist that any team that is finishing outside the top 3 of the division but has a lot of points, they could face the division winner of the other division within their conference. So in this case, the Kings won't be facing the Canucks. They might be facing the Dallas Stars. So that should be an interesting one to see. And then because if you're going to face the division winner of the other division within your conference, you're going to have to play the other divisional opponents of that division winner. That's not your own. So the Kings could be facing the Colorado Avalanche in the second round. And then um, so if the Kings beat the Stars and the Avalanche, they might get to face the Vancouver Canucks to get into the Stanley Cup. That would be something. Anywho, and then the Padres, they're doing okay. They're not great. Pitching is a little shady, a little skeptical. I like to see more consistency. The offense is kind of hit or miss. I think they're 4-5 right now. But yeah, the Padres, they split 2 games with the Dodgers, 1-1. They split the Giants 4-game series, so it's 2-2. And then they lost 2 out of 3 to the St. Louis Cardinals. So Padres are 4-5. Let's see what happens going forward. Cross my fingers. We'll see what happens. And then the United Football League, the UFL, started. It's a merger between the XFL and the USFL. Technically, they took 5 of the teams from the USFL and 3 from the XFL. But because there were 2 Houston teams, the XFL Houston franchise got to keep the name, but they had to put it on the team from the other Houston from the USFL. So the Houston Gamblers had to change their name to the Houston Roughnecks because that was the XFL compromise. So even though the Houston Gamblers got to stay in the new United Football League, but they had to be rebranded using the XFL Houston name, the Houston Roughnecks. Interesting, but whatever works. There are 8 teams in the UFL, and they're separated by the XFL conference and the USFL conference, which makes a lot of sense. Of course, the Houston Roughnecks has to move over to the USFL. So, oh no, like that. So there are 4 USFL team names in the USFL conference. The XFL, there are 4 of the names they kept for the XFL conference, but because of the 2 Houston franchises, the Houston Gamblers got rebranded as the Houston Roughnecks, the name of the XFL Houston franchise. But all the players are from the USFL Houston franchise, the Gamblers. The coaching staff, the players are all from the USFL. But the name of the team is from the XFL side. So, fun times. I did notice that all the USFL teams did beat all the XFL teams week 1. So there's another 9 weeks left in the regular season, and then there's a 2-week playoff. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. I can't wait to watch all that. So yeah. So that's it for me, guys. USFL, Padres, LA Kings, Lakers, March Madness, Final Four, 3 comedy shows, great coffee, some good food. So that's it for me, guys. You know the saying goes, boom. Tiggy Maximus signing off, baby. Hey, later, guys.